for the punch, right? We'll just have to all put some things.
We need to appoint a secretary too.
Oh, I have
Yes, you have
to. Would anyone care to be secretary? We have that. Okay, sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll. Jakubowski, here.
Sullivan.
Here.
McGuire, Papick.
Here.
Blodgett, here. Do I say Schuster and the others? Yeah, Schuster.
Absent.
Absent.
Von Lumen, absent.
Deichmann.
And Deachman,
So
absent.
we have a quorum.
Okay.
And I don't see anyone for comments from the audience. So do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move
Wait,
to...
do I have to read it?
Okay, here you
Yeah,
go.
first, ask if there are any changes.
Okay. Are there any changes to the consent agenda?
No.
No. Okay, the consent agenda is A, minutes, regular meeting Tuesday, 17th February 2015. B, expenditures cash disbursement detail report, February 2015. And other action items, stack units, youth services, Embry Ltd. of DeForest, Wisconsin. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by
I'll second.
Poppich, second by Sullivan. Roll call.
Jakubowski.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
McGuire, Papick.
Aye.
Blodgett, aye.
Okay, so that is approved. Okay. Do I
Okay,
hear a
don't
motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Moved by Sullivan, a second.
Second.
Second by Blodgett. We need a roll call.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to number 7, Board Education per capita grant, educational programs and training opportunities for patrons. This is a discussion item.
Yes, and in your packet, this is a report, and this relates to 2 of the items required for the this year's per capita grant application, both relating to educational opportunities and programs and training opportunities for patrons. So the one item requires us to identify programs and opportunities that we currently provide, and the second, under trustees, asks us to identify and describe how library funds are used to support these programs. And so the attached chart is compiled with the help of staff that shows the results of some brainstorming on and discussion on the management team as to how to categorize these, which in terms of the requirement by the state library is probably a little overkill, but I thought you'd find it interesting. And then basically we get some grants from the Friends and for several of our programs from the foundation. Otherwise, these items are budgeted for part of our programming budget in the library fund. So, and that's the report. If there's any discussion or questions, I can try to respond to those.
These are the programs that we already have, and then you categorize them.
Yes, these are things that fall into those particular headings. We have a lot of other general type programming, but ones that specifically seem like training opportunities or educational programs we called out separately and categorized them by age. So.
Okay.
Just a quick question.
Any discussion?
The hands-on computer classes, I see that they're offered to adults. Is it because the youth population is already way over our heads and they know this stuff already?
I'd defer to Stacy and Joanna on how that works.
These particular classes are intended for adults. We have at times offered, we've had a PowerPoint program in the past, but they are doing so much of that in schools, we don't have a lot of call for that type of programming to fill. Plus, our computer lab is relatively small, so we can only take, even when we do have classes similar to that, up to 7 students in there, but we really haven't had a call for that.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to know.
Sure.
Okay. Moving on to financial reports. Joy?
Okay, your reports are in the packet, nothing really out of the unusual. If anybody's got a question, I'll address it.
I have a question. I
Okay.
apologize for my voice. The per capita grant I see we have not yet received from the state, and I know that many in the public sector are worried about, because of this state's budget situation, having a kind of a after the fact sweep of those funds, or just a failure to provide what was promised. So has ILA perhaps given any guidance to us about what to expect, or?
Well, for this current year, we will definitely get it, because the way it works is the money that we're spending for this 2014, 2015 fiscal year, we've already been told we're getting the money. We just haven't seen it yet, so.
And I can tell you, I learned today from a source close to the state library that we probably will not receive the check until January next fiscal year. So it's a little bit later than has been in the last couple of years. But so the check, the money for
The 33,000?
to spend starting July 1st, we won't actually receive the check until approximately January, which means we probably will not necessarily spend anything until we get the check, just to make sure that it's been committed for next year by letter from the Secretary of State. But if we're probably prudent not to spend it until we have it. As Joy said, the money for this fiscal year that ends June 30th, we actually have that money in the bank. We received that check earlier this year or late last year, I think, I forget.
Probably March of last year.
Maybe so, yeah. And normally we would be getting a check around this time for next year, but the situation with the state has caused an estimated delay, till the end of this year, beginning of next year.
Okay.
Now, how accurate that is, we don't
But
know.
the money that you're seeing spent in this working budget, we've already
We
received.
have the money, okay.
He's talking about the money that we would be spending
okay.
next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you, John.
President's report.
I just have one quick thing. I was glad to see last month a very positive reception from the City Council on our idea of requesting a TIF grant from the city for our site work. So that was good to see the support of the City Council for what we're trying to do here. So George and I will be working on formalizing that in the days to come.
So is this something we can discuss in the meeting today?
Yes, I can tell you that we're waiting for specific details from Bill McGrath on what we need to provide in terms of an application. But the ball, in his perspective, is in his court right now, so there's not anything really doing about that. But there's anything else I can respond to.
Well, I have a question about the article or a letter to the editor that was in the paper. And is that something that we need to respond to, or, because there were some inaccuracies, I believe, in that
There were.
editorial, right?
It was a letter to the editor, and there were some inaccuracies, and I personally feel it's better not to engage people in that kind of situation.
No, I don't disagree with you. I'm just asking.
And I mean, that's I'm happy to do otherwise, if the board wishes, but and he's a regular letter writer and on many topics, and but in general, that particular person, but in general, I think it's better not to engage in a debate over those kind of things.
Okay, thank you, George.
I was very encouraged with the city council's response. And I just felt like they really think the library is just the best. So I thought that was really, really wonderful.
It was a nice meeting.
It was. Okay, good news and comments from the board.
I'm just going to defer some of mine until I talk about the Friends. There were just
Okay,
some small victories there.
good. Correspondence and communications.
The only thing in your packet that I put as communication is the date is older, but the actual document is very new, and it's the latest and I think relatively, final or close to final version of the strategic plan report from NIU. If you have any feedback on it, please let me know, and I'll follow up on that. Otherwise, this will be going to the Services Committee in the near future as we develop what the next steps are for how we proceed. So, want to make sure everybody got a copy at the same time on this.
Okay. Directors and librarians report.
Well, the current report is in your packet. In terms of highlights, as you probably all know by now, the March-April issue of Neighbors of Batavia, the feature lead article, which was focused on culture, was in fact all about the Batavia Public Library. And several of our staff members, in particular Michelle and Joanne and Stacy, with a contribution from me as well, worked on the report, and we're very pleased at the publicity, I guess is the best way to put it. So, tied into that, I've included my column, which relates to the issue in the director's report, just for your information and interest. And the other thing that I highlighted in the report was about Hoopla. I suspect, am I correct in thinking that Stacy will say more about Hoopla? Okay, then I won't say, I won't spoil her report, but just included the first 2 weeks statistics in here for your interest. So the use is actually, I think, very good for the first 2 weeks. So with that, unless there are questions, I'll turn you over to Joanne and Stacy.
I like that the article, that the Neighbors magazine, I think they mentioned Born to Read at least twice. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah.
Kind of like snuck in a couple times, that was good.
Well, we just concluded the end of February Winter Library Club, and we had a great turnout this year, 163 families, which is up from last year. over 600 individuals participated, children and adults. 111 families were active families, came in, participated. We changed kind of how we were counting that this year so that it's kind of hard to do a comparison to last year on that particular one. 54 families actually completed the entire program during the 6 weeks. And we actually had 10 families this year who only had a baby or a toddler, younger child. We hadn't really tracked that in the past, but this year we actually put some activities for families with infants and toddlers into the program, built those into the program, as well as some rewards for young children. And I think that was helpful in getting those families to participate and try something different during the winter months. So we were very pleased with those results. But summer is just around the corner, and so we are heavily into our program planning, putting our calendar together. Staff, we've spent some meetings on that, and so while Winter Library Club just ended, we are all thinking summer. And this year our theme is Read to the Rhythm. So it's musical, and we'll be doing a lot of interesting things this summer. Something new that Jolene Baytek is going to be offering for the first time tomorrow. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning. This is kind of, we take the month of, our story times ended, this winter session ended the beginning of March. And we take these few weeks off before and then spring break to get ourselves geared up for summer reading club, because there's a lot of programming preparation that we have to do right now, and then do a lot of programming during spring break week. But Jolene is taking this opportunity to offer something new tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's for children ages 3 to 6 with a caregiver, and it's focusing on sensory and fine motor exploration. She was trying to do a sensory story time. In the past, she's tried to offer that at different times, Saturdays and on Wednesdays, and she's had kind of ups and down responses, and it's for children of many capabilities and abilities, but intended to have children who have some kind of a special need. So she knows that this is a time when Alice Gustafson does not have their developmental preschool on Wednesdays, and so she's hoping she can pull some families from that program. So we're going to see how that goes. She's very excited about that. We'll see how that runs tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I just wanted to thank the board for approving our shelving request. Allison is getting geared up for doing a little boost to our graphic novel collection when we can move that into, we're planning some of the shelving that's being purchased is to go into one of our little window bay areas, and we'll be moving our graphic novel collection to that area. It's a collection that gets heavily used. It's right now kind of buried in our nonfiction area, and it gets used by a wide variety of ages. But she's also she has plans to put some comfy seating in there, and hopefully that'll be a nice little area for the tweens to kind of find a spot, sit, grab your favorite graphic novel, and sit there and enjoy some leisure reading. So we appreciate your approval of that. The nonfiction shelving too will be a very nice addition, and I'll talk more about that in another month or so. But we're very excited about moving this graphic novel collection and getting that a little bit more of a boost with some additions to it, and hopefully some of the tweens will really find that a nice relaxing spot.
Andrew and I went with George after the facilities meeting. We went downstairs to get a lay of the land of where the Gothic novels were going to be relocated, and it looks like it's going to be a really a great area. And we're looking forward to hearing what the response is.
Yeah,
Andrew himself said, of course, his kids are, going to be interested.
Be
in
there,
that.
absolutely.
Yes.
So we were talking to Michelle today about some signage, getting some interesting signs there that really kind of draw that attention to students. So you'll be hearing more about it, but thank you very much.
George mentioned that we've just completed our first month of offering Hoopla, which is downloadable movies, TV shows, music, and e-audiobooks. And we had 86 checkouts in February, which is quite impressive given that we only launched on February 16th. So that's basically half a month worth of statistics. So we've gotten off to a very nice start. Patrons are finding that it's wonderfully easy to use. And if anyone would like to get started on it, visit us at the reference desk, or you can give it a whirl on your own. It's really easy to use this to do the downloads of any of those materials. The other big news is that we just wrapped up One Book, One Batavia 2015. Our final 2 programs took place very recently. The Ghost of Mary Surratt. We had an audience of about 90 people here in the Founders Room. And then our presentation by James Swanson, the author of Manhunt, took place last week. We had 363 people in attendance at the Batavia Fine Arts Center, and it was a very nice event. I'd like to thank the Friends of the Library for their funding of the event, as well as the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence, which helped with some of the travel expenses for the author's visit. And I'd also like to just acknowledge our partnership with Batavia High School all these many years for One Book, One Batavia. It's a wonderful collaboration, and we're looking forward to next year, Book 2 be announced one of these first times once it's determined.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we had talked at another meeting about perhaps involving Anderson Books in book selling because Mr. Swanson had canceled for their book discussion. And then we saw Barnes & Noble there. So it's
Right.
great that we have another partnership that,
Right.
but I was just kind of curious about how that all came about.
Right. We've worked with Barnes & Noble frequently in the past, and in talking with Andersons, they would require that we actually go there, pick up the books, and deliver back any of the excess, whereas with our partnership with Barnes & Noble in Geneva, they bring the books, take back any of the extras, and also provide a bookseller to handle the book selling. So it's a much more amenable situation that we found working with Barnes & Noble, but we did talk with Andersons about that possibility.
It was a wonderful program. I particularly liked the question and answer period at the end.
Yeah.
It was just interesting, the range of questions that were asked, and at the end of the program there were still enough cars in the parking lot that I felt good that people were actually buying the book to get it signed by Mr. Swanson. I don't know whether
Yes.
that happened or not, but that's what it seemed like.
Yes, there was a fair amount of book selling and also a lot of book signing. There were a number of people who brought their book who had previously purchased it to read it for One Book, One Batavia.
Right.
And he was happy to sign those as well. So the signing went on for quite a while.
Oh,
He was
good.
very open about chatting with people. I saw him talking to high school students in the line. In fact, one of them was actually interviewing him, which held up the line just a teensy bit. But he was offering advice on pursuing research. I mean, he was being asked some, I think, very intelligent questions in the signing line, which I thought was really impressive. It was all around. It was a very
Very
upbeat,
positive program.
day.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Committee and official representative reports. George, do you want to say anything about the facilities?
Well, the primary topic related to the book stack units for used services, which the board approved as part of the consent agenda, and that was the primary
Okay.
topic.
All right. Do you know about the foundation, since Kara's not here?
Oh, yeah, both of them. Yes. There's a lot of energy and enthusiasm for the fire insurance map project. The foundation is at full board strength, 12 board members, and some of the newer board members have a high level of enthusiasm, actually both new and old, but some of the newer board members have really reignited a planned fundraising effort to restore and conserve and display these gigantic wall maps, which I think you saw.
They are just fascinating.
And they had another field trip, the board did, to Chicago to look at the maps and actually talk to the owner of Graphic Conservation Company, and there's actually a committee meeting for this project tomorrow morning. So a lot of enthusiasm, and that was really the organizing the fundraising effort really was the primary topic of conversation for the foundation.
Thank you. Francine, Friends of the Batavia Library.
All right. The Friends had a very productive meeting the end of last month, and they, since that meeting, had a very successful book sale. They raised over $1,200, which was huge. So they're just gangbusters. That's all I can say. There's no holding these people back, which is awesome. They take great pride in the fact that they've been able to help the library, and Joanne put in, we discussed it, whether we should put a plug in when Mr. Swanson, prior to, basically a subtle plug that the Friends help support some of these programs, fantastic programs that the library is doing. And then it was also suggested that perhaps a table could be placed outside in the lobby to give people information about joining the Friends. So they're right in the middle of their annual membership drive, and not many people picked up the membership application, but they had 5. So, I mean, an event like that, when there's so much going on, they were really pleased, and they got the word out about people donating books, and so I'm sure there's going to be lots of really great books in the future here. The membership, we have 70 members, including 7 new from the mailing list that was sent out to previous members. And then they're also going to be adding the membership form on the website, so to hopefully attract people that way as well, to not miss any opportunity, in other words. And they're going to be passing out winter, or they already have winter reading club coupons that have been distributed to youth and adult reading groups. The coupons are quite popular at the book sales. And the Friends were also instrumental in planning with many other people, I'm sure, the staff and the mayor of Batavia on what Mr. Swanson would be doing prior to his speech. And so I give Joanne a lot of credit for her patience in that process. And Sunday, April 19th, we're celebrating Susan Russo, and that's at 2 p.m. on April 19th. And so we welcome everyone to come. There's going to be quite a celebration, and at that point they will approve the new slate of officers, and so they're really trying to get people to come and be excited about things other than a standard meeting.
And their annual meeting is going to be on the 23rd, I think, as well.
Okay.
Of April or March?
April 23rd. The library leader reception is on Sunday, April 19th for Susan, but then
Yes, you're right.
there's an annual meeting
7 p.m. 7 to 9.
on April 23rd.
Right, thank you, George, for that.
And I think the reception's going to be lovely for Susan.
Oh, yes, I think so,
Some nice
too.
ideas, and it's going to be a good celebration.
And they've also decided to have an orientation for, to attract book sale workers, to give them some ideas on, how to go about being a book sale worker, so they're not just thrown in and expected to perform, so to speak. So hopefully we'll get some new volunteers that way as well. So they're really thinking out of the box on a lot of these things.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Link, George?
There was a link meeting today, in fact, this afternoon in Bloomingdale, and the budget was approved. And sort of business as usual. There's a lot of details relating to the management of the database and services and such. And that was followed by a meeting at 1 o'clock, but I was actually, there were two meetings this afternoon, but I was at the 1 o'clock meeting relating to a project for rails, reaching across Illinois library system, discussing ideas, and it was a focus group like setting related to an overlay project, which is basically like taking a virtual blanket and laying it across all the libraries in Northern Illinois and linking all of their catalogs so that patrons can then search and place holds through the whole database. And the state of Michigan has been doing this for a number of years, over 400 libraries in the state of Missouri, which has been growing actually beyond the borders of Missouri. And then there are other states or parts of states, including part of Pennsylvania and other states that are actually successfully doing this. And so there's an effort underway within Rails, and we'll see where that goes. That'll be a very interesting new era of resource sharing among libraries.
Good, thank you. And then BATV, Kara's not here for that. Do you know any news?
No, I did not talk to her about that, so I'm without news.
Okay, all right. And then future agenda items. If you want to take a look at that. Are there any questions?
There's an election on April 7th.
And when does early voting start? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
There is early voting,
I think
right?
it might be Monday, this Monday,
Okay, and it's at the government center?
I believe so.
among other places. Yeah.
Where else would it be?
City Hall.
I think the early voting may not be at the churches and things, but I think it's at City Hall.
City Hall or the government center?
The one on Lake Geneva.
Mhm,
Yeah.
31 there.
So, yeah, that's coming up, so use your truck for riding to it.
So good thing I got to do a meeting.
I'm sorry to say, there you go.
That's right.
There you go. So anyway, that's the big event coming up, and then the board will have its organizational meeting in May.
All right. So, any other comments from the board?
Oh, just a question. Do we know, I know of one candidate running. Do we know of other candidates who are running besides
There are two
Andrew?
candidates running for 3 positions. Andrew Deachman is, as an incumbent, is running for re-election. Rich Henders, a former trustee, is running to come back on the board. And then the third slot is, there is no one running, and the time for write-ins candidates has passed. So only 2 trustees will be elected. And because they're running unopposed, I assume they both will win.
A lot of school board members decide on.
A little more controversy in the schools and in the libraries,
Yeah, that's okay.
thankfully.
All right, so is there anything else?
Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Who made the motion?
I did.
I think it's a record.
Morning, 30.
It's a record.
Okay.